yell, it's your favorite trainer with a belt buckle. Today we have a guest speaker, Chris. He went through Show Up over 6 years ago, and he talks about his success at Equinox. He was a trainer at Santa Monica. He's now started his own product in his business line, the ankle thingy. Make sure to check it out. This is what you get when you show up to our online classes. You can become a great trainer anywhere in the world, and as Chris talks about in this call, it's about the foundation. If you want to become a successful trainer, you need to show up. Check out this class, showupfitness.com. Have a great day. And super
can I cuss?
Oh, of course you can. I cuss all the time. We have Mr. Chris here, and he's looks like a NASCAR driver with like me with all the show up stuff on there. I like it. So this guy and I, we met probably, do you know what year it was?
2016.
2016, so 6 years ago. And it was able to get picked up at Santa Monica Equinox. And I still remember his resume because I pull it up a lot. I show people and I tell them that don't do this because you don't have the skills that he does, but because of his background in graphic design, his resume was really, really neat. It was the only resume that I gave the okay to have your picture on there, but he has his photo on there and he has all this cool shit. I'll attach it into this video so you can see it. But Chris had a really great career at Equinox, a lot of great stories, and I'm going to pick his brain on the highs and the lows because I'm all about transparency. Unlike a lot of gyms, they're going to tell you that, oh, you're going to make six figures, super easy, and it's all sunshine and rainbows. Really cool story about going overseas with one of his clients. He trained a sheik, correct?
Yep.
And like a lot of trainers, when they're going to have their highs, they're going to have their lows, they're going to come up with unique opportunities to help their clients. And whether if it's start your own company, start your own gym, develop other streams of revenue, he created ankle thingy. And it's a really, really awesome gadget. I'm sure you can show everyone that you have. And so he's now left Equinox, and during COVID, he just took another opportunity to create other streams of revenue. And I really liked his model that he had for getting his clients into his apartment that he trained. And so that just like so important to be able to pivot when life gives you curveballs. And he's done that so many times. And now he's in where I want to be in Texas, and he's in Austin, living the life. And he's now
I'm in Houston.
Sorry. But living the life in Houston, and he's working on something he loves. And he's retired from training, but he's still in the fitness area. And we were just talking prior about some CEUs that he's been able to provide for everything on the ankle. So let's talk a little bit about, the floor is yours, Chris, and people feel free to any questions you have in the chat box. But you're able to get into, I think, the top, 5 or 6 at Equinox at one point?
I think 1 month I was number 6. I think I sent you a screenshot when I hit that. Yeah, it was like the month of September of 2018 or something like that, 2019.
While you're talking, I'll pull that up because I believe I have it somewhere.
Yeah.
Let's talk about your life at Equinox and the highs and the lows and what it was like.
All right. And, I tend to ramble. So if you want to stop me and ask specific questions that you want me to hit, but
yep.
And how much time do we have?
I won't go into it. It's always up to you, but an hour would be great.
All right. Okay. Well, all right. So I guess I'll start actually. So the way I started is I came into LA 2016. And I always tell people a little bit about this because it's just the truth of how I got here. I used to be a college basketball player, and I played professionally overseas for a little bit. But I have the typical story of an athlete that became very washed up after my career ended. And I got really messed up with drugs and alcohol and ended up with looking at facing like 40 years to life. And I almost died. I was like 150 pounds of just doing lots of drugs and bad things. And I ended up getting sober, and I ended up in LA in a halfway house. While I was there, I was working out at the gym that the halfway house had. And they had a deal with that we could go work out. It was called Iron Fitness. It's actually not too far away from where Chris's gyms are. And I saw a trainer in there sell training to this lady at the front desk, and she paid $3,000 for 50 sessions, I think it was. And I was like, oh shit. So you can make a living doing these guys aren't just like doing it on the side. They're making a living doing this. And then I just Googled, certifications, like what do you have to do to become a trainer, and showed up. And well, actually it was MPTI, when you were doing both MPTI and show up.
Mhm.
And so I signed up to that and basically went back to school at night. I think I went to mostly the night classes. I went to the night classes, right? Yeah, I went to the night classes because I had to do a bunch of like the halfway out stuff during the day. And so I was taking classes at night with Chris. And I say to this day, like, if it wasn't for Chris that started me off with Show Up and MPTI, I probably would have gone down the same rabbit hole most trainers do. And where it's all fluff, like there's no substance to their training. The most important thing Chris taught me then was how to research properly, and to like know that most stuff out there is bullshit. And he kind of like taught me how to like figure out the right things and then what to prioritize based on that. And so I did that. What was that, like 6 months that I did Show Up and MPTI?
Mhm.
And you took us to one of the days you took us to Equinox just down the road as a group thing. And all the trainers there were ripped, in great shape. At least that was then. Back then they were. And then you said that if you can get a job at Equinox, that's the best place to work. And so I immediately, when I graduated and I was doing your internship, I made a list of all the gyms I was gonna interview at. Equinox was like, I did it the same way you did like a college, your college applications. I did the like hardest ones first. Like Equinox was my Harvard, the one I knew I was probably not going to get into because I did not have a great resume. My whole resume was graphic design stuff and other stuff that I did after college and basketball. And then there was like this 2.5, 3 year gap where I did nothing. This is my updated resume. But I did like nothing because I was pretty much on the street. And so I didn't expect Equinox would ever hire me because I knew they did background checks and all that stuff. And so I went for the interview there. And back then they had a pretty rigorous interview process because they had so many people applying. I think with the group I went in with, there's like 18 people that were being hired for that like round of hires.
Mhm.
And so they did the group interview first, where there was like 18 of us. And then we all like, it was I'd never done a group interview in my life. And all the trainers in there were in really good shape and they were all famous on Instagram. And I wasn't necessarily the top on either of those two things. And the interview was awkward because they did ask me like, what have you been doing for the last 2-3 years? And I was like, nothing great. I just was honest. And then Annie and Sarah convinced Cassie to hire me, mainly because I went through Show Up and they had good experience with you guys. And they hired me and I didn't know what I was doing. Even though I went through Show Up and MPTI and everything, I still had no idea what I was doing. I still don't know what I'm doing. But I had no idea what I was doing and I was just going to give it my best shot. And the first year was awful. It was so hard. I really did average for a first trainer. Like I thought maybe I would do
But you're also being hard on yourself because you're saying average, but you got to remember how many people went through there and quit that you saw. What were, you're saying you don't know what you're talking about, but there's so many trainers that you were around as your rampers. I'm sure that they got the axe because they didn't hit their numbers.
I think 3 of us got hired of that 18, 3 or 4. And in the end, only like 2 of us even stayed within the first 6 months of those 4. And then only I ended up doing 6 figures at some point, 6-figure income in a year. My first year, I only made like $27,000, I think, at Equinox. I only worked like 11 months or 10 months, but still.
That's what they say the average is. They say 28 to 32,000.
Yeah, and that was really hard in Santa Monica. Mm-hmm. It was really hard living. Yeah. But I didn't have any other options. And I also I'm one of those, because I don't know if it's because I used to be an athlete, but I just had a day where I remember this day very clearly. I was just like, I don't want to be fucking average. I don't want to be an average trainer. Like by the end of that year, I was average. I was like right in the middle of the pack of the Equinox trainers. And I just like Lauren Dempsey was doing the same. She was doing more than me. I was like, there's no fucking way this chick is going to be doing more than me. There's no way. Like I'm better. I can do better than her. I work harder than her, all that shit. And so I remember I told Annie and Sarah that I'm going to hit full time, which is you're doing over 100 sessions a month this month, or I quit. And so I knew that's what I had to do. Like, that's just the way my brain works. And so, and they were like, all right, well, we lost him because I think I had 12 sessions scheduled that month. I think I only had 12 sessions scheduled, and it was the first of the month. And they were just like, all right, well, I guess we lost this guy. Like, there's no way you're going to go from 12 to 100 in the same month. And I think, and so I started sleeping at Equinox. I was taking showers there, sleeping in the stairwell. I was getting up at like 4:30, showering, and then put on the blue shirt. It was blue shirts back then. It's just a gray shirt now. And put on the blue shirt, walk the floor, talk to people. I tried everything in the book to get more clients. And I ended the month with like 112, 115, something like that sessions. And then it was just like that. It was just up from there. And I proceeded to just like my whole life was being at that gym. And, not everybody wants to live that way. And in some ways it bit me in the ass because I definitely overworked myself. But I think since then I always did at least 125. Yeah, that wasn't my best one, but that was that was number one in the club.
Yeah, I remember that.
I got that one a lot.
You guys got up to 3,600 right before COVID, and so that's how many total sessions. How many trainers there are? There's 23 out of all the clubs. And I remember you got into single digits one at least a couple times because you'd send me these.
Yeah, I remember my best. I think I was number 6 out of like 3,600, like you said. Like.
So I wanted to, because I get people asking, there's this kid right now, I don't know if he's on here, Anthony, but he's training in Chicago, and we get in our heads a lot, and he's just like, how do I get clients? How do I prospect? Because that's what they say there. And I love that gritty story, it's about being persistent. And like you said, you're there all the time, and they don't tell you that, but they kind of do.
Yeah. I mean, okay, so there's many different ways that you can get clients, and I tried all of them. And some
of your most successful ones, yeah.
Some of the ways that worked for me was just like you said, being there all the time. And there's something that happens when you're there all the time is everyone just knows you as like the guy there. Like you become like the face of the gym a little bit. And even though like I'm not what Equinox ever qualified as like a brand image trainer of their, like when people went to Santa Monica or when people talked about Santa Monica Equinox, they almost always referred to me when they referred to trainers, because I was there from 5, 6 in the morning till like 8 or 10 at night. Sometimes, most nights, 6 or 7 days a week. Most of the time training, or, I gave away a lot of free sessions. That was another thing I did. I gave away tons of free sessions. I gave people free sessions all the time because at one point that's also how I got good at training, was just, if you do a lot of sessions, if you do a lot of anything, you can get good at it. And people just start buying. If that was my best sell, is like, let me do a couple hours with you and you'll probably buy. I don't have to convince them of anything. I was never that good at being like, doing the typical sales pitch and having them buy. I was much better like, let me show you what I do. And if it's better than everyone else, then you'll probably buy from me. And it forced me to be better than everybody else. Because if they trained with 4 other trainers and I wasn't better than all of them, and then they trained with me, they're not going to buy from me, And so those are the 2 things that really, I think, worked the best for me. I also got really creative. Like I bought on Amazon, that wheel that you can spin, the little cheap one that everyone buys that you can write stuff on with a dry erase marker. I would go to the front of Equinox, put that thing up and have people spin it. And all they had to do was write down their email or their contact info, and they would win shit on there, like a free stretch, a free session, free EquiFit. whatever. Like I put on stuff that was basically free training, and everyone who wrote down that people see that thing at the front, they want it. They're curious what it is. I even put bullshit on there sometimes, like free helicopter ride to like, and if they landed on that, I'd be like, we couldn't get it, but we'll give you the next thing. Like, I used to do stuff like that. And then I used to take pictures of the check-in. They hated it when I did this. You know, I broke the rules a lot, but I didn't break the law, but I broke the rules. And so I would take pictures of the sign-in sheets, and it would have a list of just the names of everyone. And then I can on our interface, I could look up their contact info, and I could message and be like, hey, I saw you, check in today at 7. I was wondering if you wanted to do a free session with me next time you come in. Because then I knew I had that spot open. And if I did a free session with them, and if they ended up buying, then I filled that slot. And you saw, like, after years of doing that, like, I was chalk and block from beginning to the end. Like, you saw, like, I sent you pictures of my calendar. It was like 10, 12 sessions straight from 6 a.m. till 6 at night, or even later.
And I would go to the gym and work out. I'd see them there all the time. And I think I was talking to a trainer the other day, and they're in San Diego, and we were going over his schedule, and everything's brand new. And I said, all right, so what time do you work out at the gym on Saturday and Sunday? And he looked at me and he's like, I don't work out on Saturday and Sunday. I said, hold on a second. You're bitching and complaining about not having clients, and you're not at the gym all the time. I said, that's right. What you have to almost set the expectations for in the beginning, because people need to see you. And right. At Santa Monica, there was at least 25, 30 other trainers. And so how are you going to separate yourself? And if you're not going to be creative,
I think we always had 35.
Yeah.
We were usually at 40. Yeah.
So if you're not being creative, like Chris is talking about here, then you're just going to be another one of the trainers. And I remember one time he came to me, and the average trainer at an Equinox is just going to go to their manager and say, I need more clients. It's not fair. I need more Equifits. I need this. And they want they're going with their hand out. And I remember he came and he made a graphic, and he's like, I'm going to start this boot camp class up. And he presented it to his managers, already doing it all. Where person A would come and say, I have a great idea. I'm going to start a class. What do you think about that? Can I get some help? How do I do it? That's what the average trainer would do. Chris went to his manager and said, I'm going to do this. I've already been doing it. I'm showing you that it's working. I need these times cut off. This is how much I'm going to generate from it. What do you say? And so the manager,
in fact, they didn't want me to do that. But then once they saw how much money it was making, because I found in the system, they had these old sessions that they never removed that were called semi-privates. So they were like $40. And they were supposed to be for small groups of like 3 people that they didn't list anymore, but they still had it in the system. So I was selling those for my classes, and I would have like 6 to 12 people in a class, and I did the class 2 or 3 times a week. So we were generating like $8,000 a month on just a few classes, and I was getting 50% of it because they didn't change the payout for the trainers because no one was selling those. And so I was getting 50% of that just doing those classes. And they didn't allow it at first, but I just kept doing it. And then they shut up after a while, but they didn't want anyone else doing it.
I remember there was a point in your career that it kind of clicked, like this isn't sustainable, because you were training a guy. This was one of his clients who was a sheik. And I don't know, you can tell everyone but how it came about, but you and now your wife were able to fly over there for a week, I think, and he paid for everything. But then when you came back, you're like, shit, I missed out on 25% of my pay this month. It's going to be hard to maintain that as a trainer, because that's one thing. Trainers don't have a lot of streams of revenue. And when you work in the corporate environment, if you're not training, you don't get paid.
Right. And it's hard to create other streams of revenue in the corporate environment. And, my fault was, and I always I learned this too late. I wasn't willing to play the corporate game. And I regret that. I had too much pride, and I was too honest. And I know that sounds bad saying it that way, but like, you do have to learn to, I worked for Equinox, and like, if Equinox sets the standards of what they wanted for the higher ups, and I never wanted to really play that game. So I didn't really give myself the opportunity to work myself up past being a trainer, because if I didn't agree with something, or if I thought something worked better, I felt like I could say something when really I shouldn't say anything until I'm in the position to change it. That's something I should have done differently. I was doing so well that I got cocky a a little bit, and I thought I got arrogant, and but it did make a difference. The sustainability, like when the Sheik, that was another thing. Like another way I got clients was after a while, my retention was my differentiating factor between every other trainer. Even the top trainers didn't have the retention I had. I had the least amount of clients in my entire career there. I had about the same amount of clients in my entire career that a lot of trainers have in 1 year. I think I had like 50 or 60 clients over 6 years or something that I was there, 5 years that I was there. My clients stayed with me for years, and they did a lot of sessions, because the ones that had the money to pay me every single day, they stayed with me for 3-4 years at a time, like the Sheik. And what happened was, when the Sheik came to Santa Monica and he went up to Sarah and he said, "Give me your best trainer," she immediately pointed to me. She just knew I worked well with, like, I would keep this guy coming back to Santa Monica, or like he would spend the most money if he worked with me. And so they never gave me clients except when it was something like that. When it was like, they really don't want to mess this one up. They gave the newer trainers, and I got in a lot of fights with Annie about it. They gave the newer trainers the clients all the time. And I was like, why? I don't have time to get new clients. Why can't you just throw them at me? But in the end, I only ever had like 10 or 12 clients at any time, but they were all doing between 4 and 6 sessions a week.
And that's huge, because the average trainer is going to be training 2 to 3 times. They have a client, they come in 10 times, and then they don't either ask for the money, the value isn't there because the clients aren't getting results. And so then they leave. And so when you have big, high retention, that's what's going to separate you. And so the Sheik, what was, where was he from? He was from
Dubai and Abu Dhabi.
Yeah. And so then he flew you and your wife out, and you were there for like 10, 12 days or something, right?
Yeah. Well, first he flew me home to South Africa, which is where I'm originally from, to see my family. I hadn't seen my family in like almost 15 years at that time. And so I got to see my family, and then he flew me up to Dubai and Abu Dhabi, and they gave us it's such a crazy story because it sounds like shit you see in the movies, but like the country hosted us. Like I had an armored car with a bodyguard that paid for everything everywhere we went. And everywhere we went, we got special access. Like if we went to a coffee shop, we just went straight to the front of the line and they gave us what we wanted. And then we walked out because the guy just like flashed this card. And then like everywhere we went, anything we wanted, we just told them what we wanted to do. And they set it up. Like we went to the palace, the royal palace, where like civilians can't go. And we got to sit, they were there for New Year's. And so we got to sit by the Burj Khalifa, in front of the Burj Khalifa, like 100 yards out from it, with like all the other sheiks, and like there was politicians and rich celebrities and everything. And there was just me and my wife, just scrubs, sitting amongst these people watching. We're eating this like crazy meal. They gave us like octopus and like stuff I don't even know what I ate to this day. And like they just like, it was the most incredible experience ever. And like it was funny because my wife and I only knew each other like a month at that time. But he asked me if I had a girlfriend. I was like, yeah, kind of. And so I fucking brought her along. She's my wife now, but wonder if that had anything to do with it. But
but it's so cool to see that when you're a great trainer, you're obviously changing people's lives. And when you're, working at high-end spots, or just in general, if your clients can afford it, they're gonna take care of you. And then when you come back to your business, and if you're doing 125 sessions a month and you're gone for 10 days, that's now going to be 80 sessions, 70 sessions, and you're not getting paid for that. And then so you essentially have to come back and double down the next week or two. And so it's not sustainable for a lot of people, especially if you want to have family and kids. And so then it kind of hits to a point where you're thinking about, I want to get into management, and that didn't really come out because of political aspects. But then COVID happened, and COVID was also like kind of like a blessing in disguise, huh?
Yeah, I mean, it was. And also like management just didn't make as much as me. I made more than Annie and her boss. And which, that's what was tough for me. It was like, I'm going to take a 50% pay cut. just to get Annie's job. And
Mhm.
then, even if I work my way up to her boss, I'm still not making as much as I am
Yep.
now.
Mhm.
And so like, that was a huge, like that was, I should have just like thought long game, but I was so in the now at that time. And then, and then when COVID happened, we were all, most trainers, I feel like left the game. I don't know if you
Yep.
feel that way.
Oh, yeah,
Like
absolutely.
it was kind of a great purge of the training
It was.
scene.
It was.
Uh,
And you see so many trainers who they're not qualified. They're
uh,
comfortable. They're making 2, 3 grand a month. And then COVID happens and they're like, oh shit, like this is realistically not for me, just because they're not good at
I
what they
had
do.
I had big bills, like I
Mhm.
was making a lot of money. So like, and like I couldn't, nobody else would hire me. I couldn't, that's one of the things that sucks. Trainers are sometimes like strippers, like, it doesn't really translate to other jobs very well. And we, and and so I was kind of forced to just dabble and see what I can figure out. And so like I got this other apartment that I could turn into one of the rooms into a home gym. Well, first I actually moved twice. I got one apartment with a patio and a big patio, and I started training people on the patio. And then when winter came around, I was like, this isn't going to work over winter. And so I upgraded to another one that was bigger indoors and set up a gym in there. And it just turned out like what worked really well is I could charge slightly less, but I created my own payment system. So people paid me like a lawyer. They paid me a retainer every month, and then they get X amount of sessions, and they get that time slot for the entire month cut off. And then they either show up or they don't. So there's no like late cancels or anything, but the prices were like 25% less than what Equinox, maybe more. It's probably 40% less than it was at Equinox, but I was making about the same amount, if not more. And I didn't have to manage sessions, and I didn't have to create an interface or like I didn't have to spend much time managing my schedule because people paid for the month. And then if they showed up, they showed up. And if they didn't, they didn't. It was it made it a lot easier. And I actually made a lot more there. I made a lot of Equinox, but I made a lot more doing that. But the problem was after, that was my 5th or 6th year of training. And those last 3 years, I think I was doing minimum 125 a month. Like on December, I would do like 125. But I would like the peak months, I was doing like 200 plus a
You
month.
know, for those that aren't training regularly, a, a tough week is 35 sessions, and that's a lot of sessions. And so when you're doing 200, you're at 50 sessions, and it's never, rarely is it going to be 5 a.m., 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 like that. It's going to
Never
be
was.
you take a 5 to 6, 7 off, 8 to 9, 11
Yeah.
off. You live close to the gym, so you'd walk home, you take a nap, come back. And so, those it's tough. And this isn't to scare people. This is to set realistic expectations on what the field can be like. But there's so much opportunity when you gain that experience. And so Chris was able to, he found a lot of clients, and we'll open it up for questions here in a second. But he found a lot of clients had ankle issues, and so then you started dabbling around with your device, and then COVID again, kind of blessing in disguise. You're able to pivot into that arena now, and now you have your own company. You've had it evaluated, and so why don't you talk a little bit more about that?
Okay. So like, have you guys gone over the conjugate method much in your,
No.
all right. Well, shit.
You can explain it real quick though.
You probably should. I'm such a huge advocate for it. The conjugate method is essentially the thing that, if you guys know the barbell, what are they called? Barbell Brigade? No, not Barbell Brigade.
West
West Side
Side
Barbell.
Barbell.
West Side Barbell with Louis Simmons. Those guys. I for some reason I was drawn to them because they're just kind of my type of people. But they also, it seemed like their shit just worked. And if you look at their world record wall, it's beautiful. And it's not, it's not all these like pro athletes. It's like convicts and people off the street, people working, 9 to 5 jobs or 7 to 3 jobs, like at like hard labor, and then working out and fucking hitting world records. So something they were doing was working. So I looked more into it, and that Louis Simmons guy basically figured out you do like the same basic movements, and it's all powerlifting, and you just change it up a little bit every week, just a little bit, and you hit all your weak spots constantly. And and that has worked the best. And so going through Chris's thing, what I did is I took this category called fitness, which is this insanely complex, basically system that we have to figure out and cater it to every client. And I simplified it down to I did like 6 to 10 exercises with all my clients max. And that's not in a workout. That's their entire program for the year. And it's pretty much the squat, deadlift for the men, bench press, overhead press, pull-ups, and reverse lunges. And I didn't really do much else. Like, that's the secret to my training. I just mastered those exercises. I really mastered those, and then all the variations of them. And so one of the biggest issues that kind of encompasses all of them, especially like with the squat, is ankle mobility. And so something I actually learned back when I played pro ball and college ball is I happened to be lucky enough that my college trainer was one of the best in the game. He's now the Celtics strength coach. He was my college strength coach. And he focused heavily on our ankles. And one of the things he liked to do was to loosen up. I'm sure these guys all know what fascia is, right? You've taught them that. All right. So the fascia, there's this fascia called the retinaculum fascia that wraps around your ankle in the front, kind of holds all the tendons together. When that gets really, really tight, your dorsiflexion and plantar flexion gets really stiff. When that's fucked up, everything else is fucked up. So I focused a lot on my clients' ankle mobility. It was one of my selling points, actually, because I knew if I could do this one thing where I took my thumbs and I dug into the anterior part of their ankle, loosened up their ankle mobility a little bit, they could do everything a lot better. And just that, so it sold really easily because it was something I could do really quick and then make them squat better. The problem was the kind of like homework that you would tell people, or if someone didn't see you every day, it didn't really work that well because it's something you have to do all the time. And so like one of the most common things people do now is the banded joint ankle mobilizations. Like you see Squat University talks about those all the time on Instagram, where you put a band around your ankle and then you do a lunge and then you push your knee forward and back. And it's really hard to balance and it's a lot of work to set it all up. No one ever does it, ever. I didn't even do it. And so I made this thing for one of my clients because he traveled a lot. And most of my clients did. Like, I think 4 of my clients were billionaires and then the rest of them were millionaires. And so they all flew and they had houses everywhere. So they came and went all the time. And so if they didn't have me, their ankles usually got messed up. And so one of them asked me if there was a device that did this ankle mobility thing that I did for him during his sessions. And I was perplexed that there really wasn't anything out there. And so I just kind of quickly made this, and then it just kind of kept going into like this now. It's called ankle thingy. I'm not going to talk too much about it, but it's really, because it's really simple. It's just a band with these pressure points that you can move the pressure point around, digs into that fascia in the anterior part of your ankle, gives you better ankle mobility. You don't have to do anything. You just put it on and wear it. And it works pretty well. I mean, it's not going to cure your ankle immobility. It's just another tool like a Theragun or foam roller that you could use. It's just a lot easier than what exists today to do. And it's more likely that you'll do it consistently.
It's like an ankle wrap. If you've ever sprained an ankle, I love it. I use it all the time. You put it on there, you walk with it, and it's like
I do it before I squat almost, especially when I work out. I walk uphill on a treadmill, and it just, my squat's so much better. My knees feel so much better.
And so if you look at Chris's journey, which is really cool, foundation, education, and then you build your career capital. Career capital is your reps, and then you specialize. And that's what people will tell you in any field. You got to learn. That's when you're going to earn the next 10 years, and then you return. And so Chris is really in his earning years, I would say, that now he has stepped away from training. He could still train if he wanted to, but he has something that he's really passionate about and he wants to get that out there. And so he has a unique path where he found his own system, which is really important, constantly learning from other people. Louis Simmons in the West Side, you go through there, you implement, I really like this. I'm going to try it on some clients. Oh shit, they really like it. Communicate with them very well. When you train with me, this is what we're going to do. A, B, C, D, and E. That is it. There's no bells and whistles. This is what you get.
Look the part. You got to look the part. That's something that I don't think people talk about enough. The thing that helped me a lot, I looked like a trainer. I got more jacked every year.
Mhm.
And I was really jacked there at the end.
But I will say, I'm going to piggyback off that, Chris, to play the devil's advocate. But you got to remember, you look the part in LA where every dude looks like Justin Bieber. And so we're super skinny, and like Chris is a monster. He looks like a Viking. He's 6'4", he's giant. And so when people look at him like, fuck, that dude is huge. But you weren't even the biggest guy at the gym. There was other guys like Christoph and other dudes that were really, really big. And so he may have even been intimidating to some people, but he was able to find his niche. And so some people, and I know there was trainers at the gym that did well, and they didn't necessarily look the part because they were less intimidating. I guarantee you scared the shit out of a lot of women, and they didn't want to work with you because you were too big.
Yeah, but I would say about 75% of my, but I mean, it's market statistics. 75% of my clients were women. And it was because I was never creepy. Like I never once hooked up with like a client or anything like that. I never hit on anyone. It was just a rule I set. And I never flirted. And I always tried to be like a teddy bear, like kind of.
Now, I know exactly why that is, but you didn't tell anyone. But he is a stand-up comedian, and so he can break the ice really easy. Can make people laugh, and there's something about that where when you're in his presence, you are like a big teddy bear, and you're super super smart. And so when someone says, "I want to grow my ass," whatever it is, you can break down the guard, and you can show value behind what you're doing, and that's going to translate very very well. And so being able to do that is huge. And I agree with you. I talk about it in my book. I actually interviewed him in my book and talk about some of his stories and how much he was charging to some of his clients, which I think was great. And it actually motivated me to charge more myself. And so when you do look the part, you are an advertisement. And so you're walking around, people go, shit, I want to look like that guy. What do? I'm a trainer.
But it's not even that they want to look like you. It's just when you're like a big guy, or even when you're like a chick with a well-built ass, or you got a big chest and arms, like, and then I also promote I used to be 150 pounds story. And but when like the Sheik looked at me, he didn't want to look like me. Like, he even told me that. He said, I don't want to look like you, but I can tell you know what you're doing. And that I think is one of the biggest selling points, especially with like billionaires and millionaires. Like, they want the guy that looks like he's the best, not the guy that's the least intimidating. And it's the same with chicks. I think it was the same. Like, the girls that did really well were the girls that knew their shit, but also looked fucking great. Remember Molly at Equinox? Like, she clearly was built well, but she also performed insanely well out there when she worked out, because she was an Olympic lifter, which I wasn't really into the Olympic lifting. I was more into powerlifting. But when she did Olympic lifting with Abe, both of those two looked like they were really good at that. And even though a lot of women don't want to look like Molly, because she was a little bit too jacked, they could tell she knew what she was doing.
Yeah.
And so
we did a call with Abe. You can go look through our assessment videos, and you can see that Abe was one of the top trainers there as well. Yeah. And so I think it's something that is true. It's a slippery slope today because of, people will try to be all politically correct, but it's not saying you have to be. I know you don't care, so it's fine. But but when you look at the spectrum, you got to look at if you're going to be independent, if you're going to be at a gym. I like that competitive edge where it's like, okay, I want to be the best basketball player on the team. I want to be the best football player on the team. I'm not going to settle. So it's like, you look at your competition and say, okay, so I got some work to do. I'm going to get in the best shape of my life. Ask yourself, are you in the best shape of your life? And if you're not, do a role reversal. Who's training you right now? Who's designing your programs? Who are you working out with? A lot of trainers don't get trained. They don't have people design their programs, and they're comfortable. And so if you can't legitimately say you're in the best shape of your life, why not get after it like an athlete does? So I really respect that, because it's like, I want to be the best of the best, and everyone can perform better. And so that's admirable. And so, it's a really cool little story that and still, growing, and your company's doing great now. And so what are some questions that you guys have for Chris, whether if it's about starting your own business, if it's the life of a trainer at Equinox? He will be straight up and blunt, so he won't hold anything back. So now's the time to ask for someone who's actually done it. And I think I love talking about Equinox because it's viewed in the industry as the best of the best. So I'll open up the floor for any questions you have.
What's your biggest advice for starting your own business?
What kind of business are we talking? Like a personal training business?
Yeah, like you left Equinox and now you're doing your independent thing. So out of all your experience and what you've learned, what's your biggest thing you could say to someone wanting to be independent and have their own company?
Biggest thing. Well, first, before I say anything, my caveat is I did really well without like Instagram or a website or any of that stuff. I didn't do any of that. I didn't have a website. My Instagram was not really selling my business ever. None of that. So I don't have great advice for that. I'm sure those things can help. I wish I was good at that stuff. The thing I did is I focused on making most of my money from one-on-one sessions. So like 99% of the money I made, which over like 5 years at Equinox was like close to $1 million, probably like 750,000 or 700,000, 6 years, was all one-on-one sessions. And that's what because that's something that I was really good at. So I focused on that. You can do all that other stuff. I think it's all great, but I think if you don't have the one-on-one sessions to start, like your core almost, like, I don't know how, it's a lot harder to rely on that other stuff, where the one-on-one sessions is something that you can really create structure around and almost like give you at least a base income to build up the other stuff, which is what I think the trainers I've seen that do it well did. They started off with the one-on-one sessions and then they built the other stuff around it, like selling your own programs. You know, Chris, you have a book. I'm writing a book now too. You know, like all that stuff. Like I can do all of this stuff because I made a lot of money doing one-on-one sessions. And the way that it worked for me was referrals. I mostly got all my clients from referrals. So people would refer me to other people because my sessions were better than every other client they've ever had or every other trainer they've ever had. And it's not that I necessarily want to say I'm like a better trainer. I really simplified the one-on-one session to just a few things. And I did those few things really, really well, instead of trying to incorporate absolutely everything and then being pretty mediocre across the board, which is what I think most trainers kind of do. Is like, if you look at their programs, it's like 12 exercises and then they just kind of like run you through those 12 exercises, where I put you through like 2 or 3 in a workout. But we mastered those. Like we did like 8 sets on squats and we did 4 different variations. And like, then we like on like a squat day, I usually just did squats and reverse lunges, obviously like warm up and cool down, but like we did squats and reverse lunges. And we like in like we did 10 sets of squats and like 5 of them was a 5x5 and the other 5 was box squats or pause squats or like, you know, speed reps. And then we did reverse lunges, weighted, unweighted, lifted, unlifted. Like I just mastered a few things and it made it a lot easier to like kind of set yourself above everyone else. I don't like, that's the best advice I can give is like, get really fucking good at a few things and like branch out from there. Don't try to get mediocre at everything. Cause I think that's what most trainers do. And that's why most trainers are just kind of blah.
I wonder if it's because of the insecurities that they have, because you're not insecure, you're confident, but you're knowledgeable. And so a lot of trainers, what they do is they think they need to play that game and show off to my clients. And I got to do this exercise. I mean, you see it Santa Monica all the time, people doing stupid ass exercises and BOSU ball stuff and stability ball stuff. And ironically, that's always the trainer who's trying to get more clients because their clients aren't getting results. Because when you come back to what Chris has on his shirt, which is the book in Overload, it's finding something and then overloading it and making them really good at that. And so ultimately what you've said is results. When you get your clients results, it pays off.
And I guess the thing, like besides conjugate method, which was my training style, you know, and I'm not saying conjugate method is the best style. It was just the one I was really good at because I was really passionate about it. And it happens to work with most people. You can adjust it to work with most people. The thing I'm really good at is behavior change. And the reason why is what I do actually most of my time, what I've done most of my time in the last 6 years is I help people get off drugs and alcohol and change their lives. A lot of homeless people, like I was homeless, and I help them change their behaviors. And I used the 12-step program. And it's a really well-proven way to change behaviors. And it's something I do a lot. And all I did was kind of use the principles I learned from that to help people change their behaviors around fitness, because that, in my opinion, along with the conjugate method, gave people really quick results. which makes them keep buying. So if you just get really good at like if someone's only seeing me twice a week, I tell them, we're just like, if it's a girl that wants to grow her butt, which was like a very common thing nowadays, especially in LA, I'd be like, all right, we're going to do hip thrusts, reverse lunges, deadlifts, and squats. And we're going to do 2 of those one day and 2 of those the other day. And we're going to get really freaking good at those. And within like 4 weeks, they're going to see results, which is usually like, even if they only bought 12 sessions, like that's like the smallest package you can buy. They're going to see results. They're like, I'm buying another one, you know. But if you try to like get their scaps right and their shoulders right and like all that stuff right, and at the same time, like they're not, you know, they're not going to see the results in 12 sessions, you know. And you're not training pro athletes. Like a lot of trainers do that. They think they're training pro. Like I was training with some chick at the other Equinox once, and she was like training me like I'm getting ready for a fight. And she's like trying to make me perfectly aligned, balanced, and like symmetrical. And I'm like, dude, I'm just trying to bench more. Like I'm not competing, you know, like I don't need to be like, I know maybe in the like 6 months it makes sense, but I'm only training with you for 1 month, you know. And so like you almost have to think shorter term and what your priorities are. And I'll keep rambling, so let's go to the next question.
What are some other questions?
Chris, I have a question.
Go ahead, Devin.
Yeah, no, just going off of like that, I think it's super interesting that like you're taking almost like a less is more approach. And I'm wondering like how you kind of phrase that and like work with the psychology of the client. Because what I found with the people that I'm working with is like, I would say half, like some people are even, they almost give off the message like I would be willing to compromise, you know, results because like I want to have fun in the gym. And that's not most. I guess most people want results, but I'm wondering, how do you set the expectation that like you're not going to be doing much variety, and that, you know, this is going to be the best for their results?
Well, honestly, when I do the assessment, I would say about half of it is just shutting down myths, you know, like the whole cardio thing. Like I almost never did cardio with my clients. Like I told them, like, you can do it. Like, I know the way you're supposed to do it, but I can make you lose weight without it. Like, you just have to eat better. And I teach them about bioenergetics, which is like one of the things I'm also I spent a lot of time learning. And if you teach people like bioenergetics, which completely, if you know the science behind bioenergetics, you know, most of this crap that's going on in the fitness industry is completely wrong about like how the oxidative system, you have to work first through the first 3 phases to get to the 4th one. And you explain that to somebody, they go, all right, I'm going to do things your way for a while and see if it works. And it usually does. Like if you show people like you can eat McDonald's every day, you just have to keep your calories below a certain point, you'll lose weight. You know, and you don't try to change too much too fast. You just try to like prove one thing to them early on, which is like, usually if a girl comes in and I try to like, they want a whole bunch of things. And then if I talk to them for 30 minutes, what they really just want is they want to lose a little fat and they want to have a bigger ass. Right. And so I'll be like, all right, we're just going to focus on those 2 things. We're not going to focus on all this other shit right now. We're just going to focus on those 2 things for the next 6 weeks or 4 weeks, however many sessions they're buying. And then after that, they'll see like, all right, that worked. Let's keep doing this. And then they won't even ask for all that other stuff they were asking for in the beginning. So it's just about proving little things to them.
And it's a great question, Devin, because I know that it's going to come a lot easier for you as you gain that confidence. Not saying you don't have it, but it's like when someone's in front of you and you're doing that assessment and they say that, oh, I want to do all this fun stuff. It's like, you can go to a doctor and ask for a certain medication, but he's gonna be like, you don't fucking need that. This is what you need. This is what you're going to take. And so when you're on the other side of the table and someone comes in and they want the fun, you'll learn to shut that down and be like, okay, well, that's not how we do it. This is how you do it, because this is what's going to get you results. And we're just going to do this. And then you present it and you show them.
Well, you can also just make them prioritize, because a lot of times these girls will say like, you know, I want to look better, I'm going to lose weight, blah, blah, blah. And then if you just like really talk to them, they'll say, well, the thing I think that will make me look better is to have a little less fat and a bigger butt. You know, if you talk to a guy and he'll just be like, well, if I could just get my chest, I could never get my chest bigger. And I'll be like, all right, we're going to do 4 weeks of chest. Like You know, like it's if you can get them to say that themselves, they'll buy into it. You just have to kind of talk them through it a little bit and get them to say it, you know, and that just takes practice. And that's why I said, just give away free sessions, you know, give away at least 5 a week, I did that even when I was doing 200 sessions, give away 5 a week. And those are your practice sessions. Like, get them out and you'll get better at it as you do. You'll get more confident. That's how I got confident.
I love that right there, because I see, I mean, trainers today, it's a whole different breed. I mean, we're working 15 hours a week and we want to buy a Lamborghini. And so it's like when you're always, you know, trying different methods, and it's like each one of you in here, you're a master chef, and your product is what you're trying to learn what that is. And for one person, it could be pizza, it could be ravioli, but you need to constantly be trying to improve the recipe. And you can do that on your clients. You can think of it as, I want to pick up 3 more people this week. If you're not training a full schedule, you need to be doing that. And so go out there. And in Equinox, it's easy in the sense that you can find people. But if you're an independent person, it's going to be a little more challenging. But you can go to your coffee shops, you can go to your stores, and you can go and use your social media. But you should be getting people in front of you and training them. Helen, you had a question?
Yes. So what do you do to, or have you done to overcome your limiting beliefs through this journey that you've been on?
My limiting beliefs.
Yes.
What does that mean exactly? Just so I make sure I'm right.
Oh, like, did you ever question, am I doing this right? Is this ever going to work out for me? You know, limiting beliefs in your, yes.
Yeah. Okay. I don't know. I still feel that way to this day. But I don't ever have a plan B. Either I have to make this work or I'm not going to do it, which is what, you know, and I don't know if that's the right answer. That's just what worked for me. If I didn't do well in training, I would be broke. I would be homeless again. It was this or nothing. That was and that's just the way I always thought about it. I don't know if that's like a healthy answer to give you, like if that's the right answer, or maybe it is the right answer, because it is so difficult to make it as a trainer. But you're going to fail a lot. And I still fail a lot. Like before we got on this call, I was telling Chris about how I failed miserably at something. But
you have the grit and the tenacity to keep on doing it. And that's where we come back. And that's what we're trying to change for everyone that's listening. It's like Chris is still going through highs and lows as life is going to present to everyone. We want it to be like an Instagram story, which is fake. And so it is hard to make it in this career, but I don't think it is if you have the foundation. And the reason that we all have those negative voices, but at the end of the day, he's really, really good at those exercises, and he's good at movement. And so when you look at helping someone else, they're coming to us. They need that confidence. And so if you're really diverse with doing everything and running all around, your clients aren't going to get results. So it comes down to knowing the science and understanding movement. And that stuff is gonna leave when you're training. Like, you know, I remember when I met with Chris, and he was one of the smart trainers, where he's like, I have an idea for a product. I'm going to take you to dinner, and we're going to go to a fancy little steak restaurant. And I was drinking whiskey, and I think I got drunk. And I remember quizzing him on some stuff on his ankle. And I said, all right, go over your ankle anatomy. How many bones, blah, blah. And he looked at me. He's like, I need to go over it? I said, yeah, you need to be the fucking expert in that. Because if I'm a doctor and I'm going to go to you about the ankle, you better know everything more than I do. And so he's competent enough then to go into research and anatomy and learn that. And now he knows more about the ankle than I do, which I don't know that much. And so that's where the ability to do and to act and not sit back and reflect and point a finger at everyone else and play victim.
Yeah, well put.
What are some other questions you have? This guy's busy. He's a great source, and let's get at least one more question if you have it. Otherwise, we will move on.
One question I have is, I'm brand new at this, Well, you mentioned earlier, Chris, that when you started out, you were in the gym practically nonstop. I'm getting married in a couple months, so I still want a personal life with my wife, family, and hang out with them. But also, I want to be one of the best trainers once I actually get out there. And again, I'm brand new at this. But so what piece of advice would you give to kind of help have that balance of my wife not being like, oh, you're never home, you're at the gym 20 hours a day, but still to be able to have a life and have fun, but also be great at my job and be able to make a living out of this?
I would tell you to go find a trainer who's done that and ask them, because I don't know.
That's fair. That's fair. That's good.
When I was a trainer, I mean, you can ask my wife, dude. I fucking saw her never. You know, and I didn't, well, see, like, I'm sober, so I don't drink or do none of that stuff, but I didn't do anything else, man. I didn't even play video games, which is like a big fucking passion of mine. I didn't even do that. I did stand up at night sometimes, but even that fell off at the end. And this was literally all I did. But I don't know, man. Like, I'm sure you can do it. I've seen trainers do it. I remember Mac did it. He was doing similar sessions to me, and he had a wife and kids and stuff, but she also worked in the industry. So I don't know how it goes, but I would go ask one of them, because I am definitely not one of the experts. I did it the wrong way.
No, I don't think you did. I think that's a great question. That it's just about diversification. And I have a guy in Austin who I want to get on a call as well, because he is one of the top trainers at Equinox currently. And so I wanted to get people who are new. I want to get people who've been doing it for a while, people who are now out of the game, and reflect on that, because he's doing really well, but he's also married to a top 5 performer at Equinox, and they train together. And so there's always a way to do it. And who knows, Keith, this could be your motivation 5 years from now to be in Chris's spot, telling that story and how it's done to find that balance. Because today it's, you know, if you are a younger person and you don't have any obligations and you can just fully invest into it, where I have a lot of people who are coming in their 30s and 40s and 50s and 60s and even 70s, and this is a career that they're embarking on. So you can still just kind of take a step back and take some gold nuggets from what Chris was saying. It's like, you got to be really, really good at your craft. And so how do you get really, really good at something? You got to practice it. And so you can practice it on your wife, you can practice it on your kids, you can practice it on other people, yourself included, but you need to get really, really, really good at the movement aspect. And so when you look at what we offer, it's the foundation. You got to know your anatomy. You got to know your movement competency, progressions and regressions, and then get really, really damn good at it. And then over time, for someone who may be in the gym, 200 plus hours in a month, that's just going to give them a little more career capital, or it may take you a little longer. It's not to say that it's not capable or it can't happen.
And the best advice I can give trainers is, one of the things I like figured out at some point, and it was more of a life thing, but it translated into my training, was I just started being 100% myself at one point. And that's not me saying that me is the right way to be. I'm saying that the people who really like me found me because I was being myself. And so it made training a lot easier, because I could just be myself. And each and every one of you in here, if you learn to be, and I don't mean like, I don't know the best way to put it, but like, if you're just 100% authentically who you are, you're going to do the things that you like more. Like, I like the conjugate method. I like keeping shit simple. I like cussing, that's the way I am. I'm not the pretty smile on your face every single day type of trainer, but I do like making a lot of jokes and being really politically incorrect. And those people found me, and a lot of people didn't like me, but they didn't fucking train with me, and I was never good at, like, Molly and Abe and them. They were good at the Olympic lifting stuff and the kettlebell stuff, which I love. That stuff's all great. Wasn't my thing. So I never tried to do it because I didn't want to be that trainer, And so each and every one of you in here, like, if you're really good at like running stuff, or like HIIT training, or God forbid, CrossFit, like, if you have a thing that you're really passionate about and good at, make that your thing. If it's something you love, it makes it a lot easier. And if you're just yourself, your people will find you. Stop trying to be like other trainers. You know, don't try to be like me unless you're already like me. Like, but just find yourself and just be it, and the right people will fucking find you, you know, and that'll make that question you just asked me a lot easier, you know, because I'm not as mentally drained at the end of the day. And you know, my job is just a lot easier in general because I'm just being myself and I'm teaching the stuff I love to other people.
That's great. And any other questions before we call it a day today? And again, not Chris is being humble, but you got to be able to still reflect back on, look at the tenacity and the fact that he was able to bet on himself and he was able to do it. Where I see so many trainers that they could take that advice and they could implement it improperly, in the sense that, oh, I'm just going to get really good at social media and I'm not going to train. It's like, we are personal trainers. I also hear this a lot with online trainers. I want to be really good at online. In order to get to online, it's like, if you want to get really good at programming, you need to know your anatomy. That's the precursor. And so if you want to be good at online, you got to be 10 times better at in person.
Yeah, the foundation's all the same.
Yeah. And it's the work ethic as well. You got to be doing it.
I sold a program at the very end. I did one online thing ever. I sold one online program where I didn't even train him. I just had one phone call and I gave him a program for $1,500.
Right.
Just because my one-on-ones were so good with somebody he knew.
Yep.
So yeah, you're just really good at if you're just really good, like, people will pay you, dude. Just be really good at whatever your thing is, if it's yoga or whatever.
Go ahead, Devin. Last one.
Yeah. One just real quick question. Chris, when you went off on your own, you said that you started charging people like a monthly rate for like X number of sessions. I'm thinking of doing something similar to that. How did you handle, like, if someone is gone on vacation for a week or whatever, like, did you bump the sessions over or did it just cancel out? Or
nope, fuck them.
I remember you said you had like 15, 20 clients. The retainer was like $1,000 a month, and it's just how
that was my
present.
minimum. My minimum retainer was $1,000.
Yeah. So it's on how you present it. So if you're like, oh, if you're gone for a week, it's like, no, imagine if you were to, have an appointment with a lawyer and you missed that appointment, you're still going to get charged. And so you need to take your services and, look your clients right in the eye and say, here's my plan. It is. And we went over some numbers the other day. It's like, we did, 349, 999, whatever it is, but you need to be, this is what you get. This is what you get. Which one do you want? There's no gray area. Okay.
Yeah, I mean, I had a waiting list and they knew if they didn't fucking pay me, I replaced them real fast. And like, it happened to a couple people. I remember, like, there was this group of like really pretentious girls that trained with me, LA girls, and they were all friends and they only trained with me because like I was that guy at Equinox and they didn't really even give a shit about their training. But one of them like paid me 2 days late and I replaced her with somebody else. And she was really pissed because she paid me like $1,000 a month or $1,500 a month before that. And I was like, hey, like, I told you what the rules were. And it spread like wildfire amongst the rest of the clients. And they never were late on payments and they never questioned me and they never asked for anything after that because they knew there was a waiting list that I was in that much demand that I was priority over them, but you can't do that your first year, like it took me 5 years.
Just to put the perspective for those that are trying to imagine this, he had a phenomenal penthouse in a very, very nice area. And when you'd go into the house, it's super clean. It's really, really nice. The equipment was great. It was quote unquote small, but it didn't feel small. And you got like smoothies and you gave him a bunch of shit. So it's like the professionalism was there. It's not like he's in some dingy little spot, charging people, overcharging them. It's like, these clients can afford it, but also it was the expectations were there and they got that professionalism, which your clients at an Equinox are going to want.
Right. Yeah. So I was training, I was training people that were worth what's like 9 figures, 10 figures sometimes. Like, I like, those people love convenience and they love things like they love that's why the retainer worked almost better for them, is because like, it was easier for them to just pay me one lump sum every month and not have to think session to session and like pay for the smoothie. Like they had a smoothie, like I did their macros for them on it, just gave it to them before, like after the session, I did all their vitamins. I did all that shit. Like I had a big counter that I built on my wall where I literally did everyone's meal prep. Everyone's like I cooked for all my clients too. That was another thing I did. Like with my session, you got the session, you got a smoothie, you got your vitamins, and you got your meal prep. And then you got a massage, stretch, all that shit too. Like you got all that. So it was top-notch service. Plus obviously the weightlifting, but
I would, Chris is a smart guy, but when it comes to vitamins and stuff, be very careful on that stuff. But
I mean, it was specific guys that had allergies that I worked with. I worked with like a nutritionist or a dietitian that I had to give it to them. But
and so last one we'll do here. Rachel from Virginia is asking about starting out membership monthly rates or pay per session. What do you suggest?
Starting out. So you mean you're starting out like you've never trained at a gym, blah, 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 all that stuff. I would say maybe going session to session. I don't know, Chris, what do you think? Because I didn't do it this way. I went straight to Equinox and then left Equinox and did this. So I don't know if I'm right.
I feel like you get a lot of people saying this is the way you got to do it, but I'm more of a trial and error with your clients. And so you can have like a beta test. So,
there's two benefits about the month to month is you can charge people less and you'll end up making roughly the same, but it'll be steadier. Like your income, like one of the biggest issues I had with Equinox, my income went up and down because it was session to session. And if you showed them like, hey, like, so instead, like, at Equinox, I was 175 a session, but if you do it with me here, I'm going to charge you only $100 a session, but you have to pay me for all the sessions a month in advance. And then you show up to all of them. And even though you'll miss some, it'll end up being less than what you paid me for all those sessions minus the cancellations at Equinox, but I will get the same paycheck every month, and it made my life a lot easier. Plus I didn't have to spend extra time when I'm not training doing all my sessions and invoicing and shit like that. It was just, I had 12 invoices at the end of every month that I just sent out. And I didn't have to like count sessions. I didn't have to do late cancels. And then you deal with the drama of people asking for late cancel forgiveness and all that. Like I didn't have to deal with any of that. And that's why I was willing to charge less for the consistency plus. And clients, I think, actually like it better. They might be a little bit opposed to it at first. Yeah. But if you sell it right and they do it for a while, they're like, oh, okay, I actually like this. Because then, they're going to go back and they're going to try training with another trainer that's $100 an hour and they're going to see he's not as good. But the only caveat with you is they have to pay you up front, So like, I do think it's better. I just don't want to say that and be wrong. I think it's better. It worked way better for me, but I also had an advantage, coming out of Equinox.
And so this has been really special because we did one, you can watch it on YouTube a while back when he was at Equinox. He talks about how he got hired and what the life is like there. And so now you see the aftermath. And so go back into our YouTube. If you haven't watched that one, you just type in, Show Up Fitness and Equinox, and you can, watch that video with Chris and I there. And he would always come back in and he was great at, telling people just honest truth of what it was like. And it's really neat to see where he's at now. If you haven't looked into his ankle thingy, it's on his website. You can get it on Amazon too, right?
Yeah, something's wrong with Amazon, so just go with my website for right now. But we're working with Amazon. I'll plug it. So it's called ankle thingy. It's backwards on my screen, but maybe it's forward.
No, it's obviously ankle thingy.
Ankle thingy.
Loosen every ankle in the world.
Yeah, I'm gonna change that actually. But I threw this all together really fast. So it's this, you get 2 of them. I think it's like $50 on my website. I'll give Chris a promo code eventually for all his students. And then my Instagram and TikTok is definitely the bigger thing now though, is Sober Trainer. If you want to follow me on there, and you guys can always reach out to me. I will give you any advice you need or help you guys out with anything. I won't charge you by the hour.
That's awesome, man. I appreciate your time today and looking forward to getting those CEUs out there so we can start putting those in classes and learning from you. So you've come a long way.
I could actually use volunteers eventually to help me make some videos for that.
Yeah, that's true. So we'll put that we're going to put this onto the new platform that we have. And, we can do an Instagram live sometime, whatever, when you need volunteers and getting people to use that. So people will definitely be volunteering for that. And So thank you again. Proud of everything that you're doing. Keep on kicking ass, and everyone enjoy the rest of your day. We will see you
Later.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate it.
I'll kick everyone off. There we go. I think we're all there. We go. All right. Have a good one, guys and girls.